you starting to feel better in therapy? Congratulations, that's wonderful. I know it sounds super cheesy, but I really mean it. It's a great place to be in. But it also puts you in kind of a weird situation. Do I tell my therapist I'm better? Do I wait for them to tell me that I'm better? I don't really know how this works. And the truth is, there's no set principle for when you decide you're done with therapy, but it is something that I recommend you talk about with your therapist. A couple of signs that you might be ready to end therapy or start tapering off or changing the frequency that you meet is if you're starting to feel better week to week. Now, sometimes you might go through a period where you have like 1 or 2 really great weeks, but then things kind of naturally go back down. If that's the case, we still want to kind of learn and create some consistency there. But if over time things are going really well, you've been consistent, you feel confident that you can maintain those changes, or the environment that you're in has drastically changed, or medication's working, whatever it is, and now you're coming to therapy and you feel like you're kind of struggling to come up with things to talk about. Before every session, you're thinking about like, what am I going to bring up today? Like, everything's pretty good. That's a good sign that the frequency that you're meeting can change. So the first step is bringing it up to your therapist of saying, hey, I'm feeling better. I'm wondering what the next step is. Like, do we need to be meeting as regularly as we can? For most of my clients, I will usually bring it up, that they're doing better and transitioning them from meeting weekly to every other week to monthly. Some clients like doing that slow taper. I have clients that I see every 2 to 4 months that just kind of like having a brief check-in. They like knowing that appointment's there. Whereas other folks are like, hey, I'm good. I want to try this on my own for a little bit. And if that's the case, that is completely all right. But bringing it up to your therapist, just saying, hey, I feel like I'm doing well. I feel like I'm meeting the goals of why I came to therapy in the first place. What do you think? Where do we go from here? Now, there are some times when your therapist might disagree with you, when they might think there's a little bit more work to do, or maybe you've met your original treatment goals, but there's some other pieces that they've noticed. Now, it is up to them to be able to clearly articulate that to you, to explain why they think you should continue to meet, what you are going to be working on, and what the outcome is going to be. And even if they explain that, you are allowed to disagree. You get to choose whether you continue with therapy or not. You're not beholden to whatever their plan is. So it's okay if you disagree. If you do disagree, you can say that you'd like to try seeing how things go without therapy, and you'll reach out to them if you do need to schedule another session. Or you can say, I'd really like to space out sessions. Most clients, the vast majority of them, don't only have weekly sessions as an opportunity. They'll do every other week or every 3 weeks or every month based on what's going on. There might be times when they're like, at the beginning of therapy, I would never start off with meeting with someone monthly because there's so much stuff that needs to work on. It doesn't really make sense. So they might decline something like that at the beginning of therapy. But if things are progressing, they should be able to offer you different options. And if they don't, they should be able to give you a really clear indication of why that is. But you're always allowed to ask to meet less frequently or to take a break from therapy and see how something goes, and you can always come back. The important thing to remember is that you always have the right to end treatment whenever you want, and it doesn't need to be permanent. You can come back. I have clients who meet with me and they're doing really well and they go off on their own and they message 7 months later and say, hey, I've hit a rough patch. Can I come in just for a session or 2? I like to call these kind of like booster sessions or maintenance sessions, just kind of reviewing all of the things that we've worked on and sending them off. And then sometimes people come back to therapy for a period of time to maybe work on a different goal because their life situation has changed or different circumstances have changed. One thing I will say is therapists often like to know when a session is someone's last session because it gives them the opportunity to spend that session reviewing all the progress that you've made, reviewing the skills that you've learned, the tools that you've learned, the mindset shifts that you've had, the different points during therapy where you've really seen transformation or things that they've noticed that have really helped you over time. This is a really important thing for you in your future because while you're in therapy, it's easy to remember all the stuff that you've been working on, but a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, it's easier to forget, what was that thing that was really helpful that my therapist used to always say? So having the opportunity before a planning session, a review session to talk about what you're going to do in the future is extremely important. So if you are going to have a conversation with your therapist that this is the last session, I'd recommend doing it as early on in the session as possible, so it gives you the opportunity to have a different plan for what the therapy session is going to look like. And then whenever you end treatment, take some time to really write down what are the things you've learned, what are the things that have really helped. Are there certain like phrases or tidbits or metaphors that you really connected with? Because there is going to be a time when that memory is going to fade and you're really going to want to access those skills so you don't have to relearn them all over again. And if you want to keep learning skills and tools that might help you down the road, make sure to subscribe and continue watching my videos every week. I'm recording. Oops. Where's Oliver? Right here. God, it makes it look like this is a fake background, but it's not. There, that's pretty cool.